is the story of the Kingdom Parables. Remember our parable boxes? They are golden and hold stories that are like a present that you can open again and again, and each time it may tell you something new. There was once someone who said such wonderful things and did such amazing things that people followed him. And as they followed him, they heard him speaking of a kingdom. But this was not like any kingdom they had ever visited. It was not like any kingdom that anyone had ever heard of. Today, when we think of a kingdom, we might think of maybe a magic kingdom or a beautiful palace, or maybe a king on a throne. But the people that lived during the time that Jesus was teaching would think of different things, like the sacred stories of the kingdom of King David, the first king of the people of God, and King Solomon, his son, who built a great temple for them to worship in. They might also have thought of great kingdoms that had surrounded them and sometimes had enslaved their people, like Persia. And there were other kingdoms, some in Africa and Egypt. They would have thought about the kings in their country, like King Herod. And they would have thought of the Roman Empire that ruled over most of the surrounding kingdoms and the Roman soldiers that now enforce their rules. So they wondered when they heard him speak about a kingdom that was so different. They could not help it. They just had to ask him, what is the kingdom of heaven really like? And this time, when they asked him, he said, the kingdom of heaven is like when a person took the tiniest seeds, a grain of mustard seed, a seed so small that if you put it on your finger, you could hardly see it. The person put the tiny seed in the ground and it began to grow and grow and grow. The shrub grew so big it was like a little tree. And the birds of the air came. And they made their nests there. And maybe there were baby birds, even though this one might be a chicken. This is what the mustard tree really looks like. More like a giant shrub. See how dry the desert is? This is the only place for birds to live safely and hide. And it grew from this tiny seed. Another time, the people asked him again what the kingdom of heaven is really like. And he said, the kingdom of heaven is like leaven. Our leaven usually comes in a package and we call it yeast, and we mix it with the flour. The people would have had a kind of leaven like yeast, And this triangle will be our symbol for the leaven, which this person took and mixed with 3 measures of flour. And as the person waited, it grew and grew till it was all leavened. We can also wonder what the kingdom of heaven is really like a tiny mustard seed that grew into a great bush, like the leaven that rose. I wonder what you think the kingdom of heaven is really like.